Sojourner Truth's Step-Stomp Stride, a literally cultured read-aloud, written by Andrea Davis Pinkney and illustrated by Brian Pinkney. She was big. She was black. She was so beautiful. Her name was Sojourner. Truth be told, she was meant for great things, meant for speaking, meant for preaching, meant for teaching the truth about freedom. Big, black, beautiful, true. That was Sojourner. Sojourner was born enslaved. Her enslaver named her Isabella. Sojourner's mother, Mama Bet, and her father, James Bomfrey, took a first look at their child and decided to call her Belle. Seems her newborn's cry was ringing in good news. Nothing quiet about that girl. Belle grew quickly. She was almost 6 feet tall while still a child. Along with her size 12 feet, she had hands like hams. Lots of muscle on her bones too. And no one dared pick a bone with Belle. She could plow, hoist, and haul better than any child her age. With her big-soled shoes, she could stomp the beetles that tried to eat her master's corn. Belle's strength and size made her valuable. She was sold away from her parents when she was 9 years old, and to 2 more enslavers after that. This was the ugly way of slavery. Belle hated being treated as property, and she hated shucking, boiling, hauling, and working all day for her enslaver, John Dumont. John Dumont knew how strong and capable Belle was. He promised to free her if she worked extra hard for him. Belle wanted her freedom more than anything, so she stepped to it. She worked hard for many years. She polished Dumont's brass until it gleamed. She mucked his horse stalls. She churned the Dumont family butter twice as fast. Finally, Belle went to John Dumont, ready to be freed. But John did not honor his promise. That's when Belle decided to run away. In search of freedom, Belle ran. She fled like tomorrow wasn't ever gonna come. She covered some ground, child. She got gone. She refused to stop until she saw hope. Belle ran right up to Hope's front door. She came to a farm owned by a Quaker couple, Isaac and Maria Van Wagner. The Quakers were abolitionists. They believed in freedom for all people. Isaac and Maria offered Belle shelter. When Belle's enslaver, John Dumont, caught up with her, Isaac offered to buy Belle's services. It wasn't Belle's work that he wanted. He wanted to free her. Belle's enslaver took the money from Isaac, then he got gone. Right then, Isaac freed Belle, and even though Belle didn't have to run anymore, she set out on her own. Belle went to New York City where she could be truly free. And oh, was that freedom ever sweet. Freedom made Belle want to take the heels of her size 12s and kick them up high. Belle celebrated her freedom by marching her feet straight to a job. Belle worked as a maid who made money for the work she did. No more master, no more cotton to bale, beetles to stomp, or corn to shuck. Belle soon learned that to celebrate freedom, she had to speak her beliefs. For her, freedom meant helping others. Freedom meant putting her foot down for what she knew was right. Freedom meant she would travel up and down the land to share her ideas. That's when Belle changed her name. She gave her slave name the Boot and called herself Sojourner Truth. She said the name Sojourner was just right for someone who was a traveler. And truth, well, that was what Sojourner did best. She told it like it was. Sojourner couldn't read or write, but she could sure speak her mind. And now she was free to go wherever she wanted to find folks who could help spread the word about freedom. She met many abolitionists, women and men who spoke out against slavery. In her travels, Sojourner made a friend named Olive Gilbert. Olive was an abolitionist. She read the Bible to Sojourner. Sojourner memorized every word in that good book. She could recite the entire Bible, from the Begats to the Beatitudes. Sojourner told Olive all about her childhood as a slave. Olive wrote down Sojourner's story. In 1850, the narrative of Sojourner Truth, a Northern slave, was published. Sojourner carried her book with her everywhere. She spoke about the unfair treatment of Black people and women. When Sojourner preached, she let her words fly, free as the highest dove in the sky, free as the sky itself. Sojourner's voice was packed with power. As she traveled, she learned even more about the meaning of freedom. She found that freedom is not a place. Freedom is the fire that burns inside. In Sojourner Truth, she was full of fire. Once, when Sojourner was scheduled to speak at a rally, someone threatened to burn down the building. That didn't stop Sojourner. She said, "I will speak upon its ashes." In 1851, Sojourner step-stomped to a women's rights convention in a church in Akron, Ohio. There was no rain on the day of that convention, child, but oh, was there thunder. What struck that spot was strong and loud. It was Sojourner's step-stomp stride. There weren't any big, black, beautiful preachers in that church, yet the main question was, should women have the same rights as men? And you can bet the men at that meeting had something to say about that. Most of the men were ministers. Like Sojourner, they knew all the words in the Bible. And, same as Sojourner, these men were following their own strides. One minister said that men should have superior rights and privileges because men were smarter than women. The next man to speak said that men should be allowed to boss women around because Jesus had been a man, and that God wanted men to rule the world. Then came two more speakers. The first one opened his Bible and said that women were lower than men because in the Garden of Eden, Eve had given in to the serpent and had eaten the apple of temptation. This minister's friend said that women were too weak to deserve equal rights because they needed men to hold open doors for them, help them into carriages, and over puddles. Well, that was enough for Sojourner. She stood up. She stepped from the back of that church to the front. She stormed past the stupidity of the men who had just spoken. Sojourner put one big, black, beautiful foot in front of the other, and she stomped on the floorboards of ignorance that were underneath. To her, the arguments made by the men were the beetles from her past. She couldn't wait to stomp, stomp, stomp all over them. Sojourner took each man's belief and slammed it down like a nail. Her fist struck a hammer's blow to the podium. Bam! She said, "You say women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches. Nobody ever helps me into carriages, and ain't I a woman?" Bam! Down came Sojourner's hand, an iron fist smashing the lies of the day. Bam! Bam! "Look at me," Sojourner went on. "I have plowed and I have planted and I have gathered into barns. No man could head me. And ain't I a woman?" Now Sojourner was ready to preach her beliefs about what the Bible meant to her. She spoke to the man who told of God's will. "Where did your Christ come from?" she asked. "From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him." Then Sojourner talked about Eve and the apple in the Garden of Eden. She said, "If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, then women ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again." Down came both fists. Bam! Bam! When Sojourner was done, she told the congregation, "Now, old Sojourner hasn't got nothing more to say." And that was the truth. Sojourner had spoken the honest to goodness. She was ready to step, and step she did. Her size 12s hit their stride. Off she walked. Big, black, beautiful, true. That was Sojourner.